and said to him, "Where are you?" Now, the very fact that he asked that question shows that there was a relationship between God and man. And that it wasn't something that they did every now and then. There was consistent relationship and meeting between God and man, because God would always come in the same location, they say at the same time, they say in the cool of the day. And he would meet with Adam and Eve. And probably not only with Adam and Eve, but all of the other animals, everything would come, and God would come and meet with his creation at that time. And so here the hour comes when God knows this is our time. We need to meet together. And all of a sudden, Adam and Eve aren't there. And so God is calling, "Adam, where are you? Adam, where are you?" And Adam and Eve are running in the forest, hiding in the midst, trying to stay away from God, because now they realize they've done something that God had directed them not to do. And at that moment, the relationship that they had was sabotaged. It was lost. So, at that time, everything that we had, as far as a relationship with God, had been breached. There was a gap now. Instead of us running to God and being in a relationship with God and sharing that quiet time with God and communicating with God and receiving from God and being in his glory, we were in essence hiding ourselves from him. And so you look at that and say, well, sabotage caused what? What did it do? It caused this. And because of that sabotage, we went from having life to being lost. And say, well, why do you say we went from having life to being lost? Because all before that time, we could walk in the presence with God and we would meet together. My sister and her friends, I don't know if any of y'all did this before. I don't know if it was a female thing or what. But a lot of times what they would do, one cousin lived down, say by my Uncle Eulin on the other side, and the other would be in the corner. They would get on the phone and they would call one another. They would call one another and say, well, will you meet me at the corner? And I didn't understand what the big deal was about it. So y'all talking to one another on the phone. What's the big deal? So they would say, look, meet me at the corner. And they would say, by Uncle Hard's house at 4 o'clock. And I'm like, why? What's the big deal? But they would do this, especially in the summertime, every day. Now, I don't know what they were talking about. But it was consistent that during the summertime, those girls would call each other. If one forgot to call, the other one would call and say, well, did you forget? We have to meet at the corner at 5 o'clock. Didn't know what they were talking about, but they would meet at the corner. So it was a consistent thing that was done. So it was a connection that was made. But after this time, because they did this in the garden, that connection was gone. You'll find a situation where two friends close together, and somebody will come and say something. Well, a third party says something. This has happened before. Young boys' friends, my dad always had a story about this. Young boys get on the bus and all of a sudden they're fighting. Never fought before. He breaks them up. He said, well, what's the problem? One says, he said something about me. The other one says, I didn't say anything about you. He said, yes, you did. And so my dad said, stop right now. So he said, well, who told you that he said something about you? He said, this boy on the playground told me that somebody said he said this. He said, well, you don't even know who said that he said, do you? He said, no. He said, but well, why are you fighting with your best friend who you know and y'all love one another, and you causing somebody that so-called said something that you don't even know about to disrupt you and cause you to lose that friendship? Life lost. Many friendships, many relationships, especially in high school, were broken up because of hearsay. I always remember I had a buddy in high school. It just happened. His girlfriend at the time was sick. One of her best friends came to school. It just happened one of the best friends also had an eye for her boyfriend. And so she came and approached him, and he just said, well, I don't see her today. He said, well, she's sick. Well, just in that brief moment, she went back, told a friend, he's trying to hit on me. He said, what do you mean I'm trying to hit on you? He said, well, you were in school, and so he was talking to me, and the guy said, well, no, all he did was just ask you a question. You said, where your girlfriend was. And he said, she's sick. That's all he said to you. That was as far as the conversation went. But the only reason they didn't break up because they knew one another. There were many other situations where couples or so-called couples broke up because of insinuation. Life, love, lost. The other thing, we lost our opportunity, and we went from having that opportunity to being obstructed. The other thing that it cost us from being victorious to being victimized. And we went from a place where we had eternal election to a place of being evicted. We had everything that we needed, and all of a sudden it was gone. So imagine, God has given you everything. You got dominion over everything. You can tell the animals what to do. You can speak to the plants. You can do everything. And everything heeds your direction. And all of a sudden, it's gone. God says, get out. But you don't love me no more. Get out. It wasn't that he didn't love us. We went out of the garden, we got put out of the garden because he did love us. So look at Genesis chapter 3 and just go to verse 22 and 24. So a lot of times we think that because God put us out of God, that he didn't love us anymore. But that wasn't the case. So we look at Genesis chapter 3 and verses 22 and 24. It shows us that there was a reason, a rationale for what he did. Now just from a simple standpoint, if God just came to you and said, well, you got to get out, would you think that he didn't love you anymore? So like the old thing, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of here. But this is what he was doing. It was an act of love that he was actually showing to us. Genesis 3:24 says this. It says, then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put out his hand and take also the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him out of the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword, which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Now notice, he didn't put the angels at the tree of good and evil. He put them at the tree of life. The reason why he put us out of the garden was because he knew that man would consistently eat from the tree of life. But if he had eaten from the tree of life in the state that he was in, man would be eternally lost. He would never be able to come back and have a relationship with God. So the reason he put us out is so that we can have a future relationship with him. There's a lot of times your parents say this, but if you're not going to live by my rules, you got to get out of my house. It's not that they don't love us. It's that we have to get to the point where we're at a point where we can have a relationship with them once again. And a lot of times that'll happen. They'll put them out, and I always remember kids, everybody want to leave home. I get 18, I'm out of here. And a lot of us, we got their own apartments. Stayed there for a couple of months. Looked up and said, man, what you doing back? Man, it's hard out there. I came back home. Said, but I thought you said you couldn't deal with it. Yeah, but look, man, I was getting 3 meals a day, 3 meals a day, had a free place to sleep. Look, all I got to do for mama, I don't even have to pay rent. All I got to do is just buy some food and help out around the house. But when I left the house, there wasn't no compassion. They didn't treat me like mom and dad. I had to do things on my own. They wanted me to pay rent. I had the car note. I had all that. I couldn't handle it. It wasn't that they didn't put you out because they didn't love you. They did it because they love you enough to get you to the point where you can understand what true responsibility and what true love is. He said, well, if you don't think I don't love you, go out there to the world and see if the world loves you. And you'll find out what's going on. And so we look at it from that standpoint, say, well, why is it a love thing? And you say, well, the only thing that could fix this thing that we had was love. The problem is a lot of times hate don't fix hate. And that's what Martin Luther King was trying to teach everybody. He said, nonviolence is the only way to address what's going on. He said, you're dealing with people who have built up hatred for hundreds of years. When they look at you, it's not with love. They're looking at you with hate. They despise you. When they look at you with hatred in their eyes, they don't see you as a person. He said, the only way you're going to overcome that is with love. And he thought Martin Luther King was a fool. They said, how can you love somebody who hates you so much? He said, the only way we're going to overcome this situation is with love. There were scenes when people threw rocks at him, and in the midst of all that, he never did anything. There was one scene where he was in the church speaking, and it just happened to be a Caucasian man sitting in the pews that night, and he was speaking. And the man got up and just walked straight up to the pulpit, and he slapped Martin Luther King. A lot of people don't remember this. There's a lot of things that happen they don't remember. Slapped him. The people in the church, when you know what happened, they want to take him down. He told him, he said, don't touch it. He said, this is just an indication of the hatred that this brother has received and been taught all of his life. And so, for us to show that hatred to him is not going to solve the problem. The only way we're going to solve the problem, tonight we have to show him that we love him even though he has problems. And the only way to get rid of that hatred that he has in his heart is to show him that love. And that's the same thing Jesus said. What did he say? He said, if somebody slaps one cheek, turn the other. If somebody steals your coat, give them your cloak. Same thing. Love is the only way that we're going to do it. And so